All right. Hey, it's the Talky podcast. I'm Jake Fisher with my friend Mike Slack. You can check us out at talkytalkypodcast.com. Is that right? talkytalkypod.com. talkytalkypod.com. I can't believe I normally have that in front of me. Sorry.
I think it's talkytalkypod.com.
That is correct. Yeah, that's right. Available on all of your major podcast platforms, including Spotify. And Apple Podcasts as well.
Hey, side note, Jake Fisher, what is your preferred podcast listening platform?
You know, it's funny that you asked that. I've got, I listen on some of the podcasts I listen on Spotify. Like for whatever reason, when I like Mark Maron's podcast a lot. You know, I'm having an interesting comedy, and so he has a lot of comedians on, and he's a really interesting comedian himself. For whatever reason, I always catch him on that one, but I listen to a lot of the business podcasts for whatever reason on Apple. I have no idea why.
Yeah. So what's funny is that I used to be almost exclusively like the Apple Podcast app on my phone, but now I actually spend most of my time on YouTube. I'll open up YouTube, and it's because I don't like to. I prefer subscribing on YouTube versus the Apple Podcast app, because when you subscribe on the Apple Podcast app, it downloads it, right? There's actual hard drive space that's taken up now by all the podcasts. Where on YouTube, I hit that little subscribe button. It just tells me, gives me a notification, and I don't need to download. I just stream. So that's a much easier experience for me for like maintenance of my phone. Plus, it does its predictive things and sends me new things, which I like. So that's actually how I prefer to listen.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Hey, cheers, Jake. Happy Thursday
to you as well. What do you got there, buddy?
I got some pretty high-end box wine.
Oh,
not really. It's just regular box wine.
Nice. Regular box wine's good. I've got regular box iced tea.
Oh.
Yeah, trying to keep it on the straight and narrow, and just calories are in everything.
They are.
In my house, calories are in the air apparently.
Oh, okay.
So, because anyway,
Cheetos in your blender and they just go everywhere.
I don't know. That'd be pretty cool. I would do that. And record it just for fun. Put it on TikTok.
That's a good idea.
That's a TikTokable idea.
Holy shit. There'd be, you know what? But you'd have to have a next step, which is the Cheetos in your air. You wave your hands in the air, then you slap someone's ass and you see what the handprint looks like. That would be like the TikTok experience, right?
Yeah. And you'd have to set the duet function. So people could harmonize with the sound of the percussion,
What's great about that is I've actually never used TikTok. I don't know what the duet function is, but it just sounds like
pretty cool.
There's all that stuff, man.
You should get on there and see, and Google or search for when you're there. Look, there are these people. A couple of weeks ago, there was this really big phenomenon of these people singing sea shanty songs, and so
okay.
So the way the duet function works on TikTok, just so you know, is that so I can make a video and then I can say, hey, I'll let other people duet this. So I could sing a song. I could be like, hey, Mike Slack is awesome. And then, make a song out of that and then hit duet. And then somebody else could duet with that and harmonize with me or add drums or, and so you kind of have this sort of free flowing collaboration.
It's a little micro garage band thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I saw somebody post on Twitter about sea shanties and I was like, what's the deal with that? Where did that come up? Okay, it was a TikTok thing. Man.
That was TikTok.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So this is a Talky Pod.
Yeah.
Where we talk about the intersection of the worlds of business and sales and technology and marketing strategy. We love that world and how all those things intersect. And that's what we're here to talk about. And so I think we're excited to talk about some things that have been creating quite a bit of buzz in the news, stopped a lot of people in their tracks as they saw it when we realized a lot of people were treating the markets like a game, but different people than the people who normally treat the markets like a game. Jake Fisher, what have you been reading?
Oh my gosh. So I've been reading my own Twitter feed because I'm like, oh my gosh, I really kind of went crazy there. And I've been fired up about this. So essentially what's happened is you've probably seen GameStop in the news, like this company, they sell game consoles. They're really built around brick and mortar stores. A lot of times in malls, they're really big in malls. The joke was always we would go in with our games and to trade them in, and like they would give us some pittance of a credit. You bring 10 games in, and then you could like get enough credit to maybe get one old game or something. But it's the store's been along. The company's been around a long time, and so
one of my favorite places as a teenager, and I loved going to GameStop. Right,
it's in the memory of a lot of people. Like it's an important thing, and so the stock had been running. It had been like $5-6. It'd really been hurt, obviously, by their closing stores. The malls are COVID. The pandemic is really hurting malls, hurting the mall companies, and the companies that are in malls. Pretty much brick and mortar in general has been challenged by the pandemic, and so.
Well, in new consoles, you download games directly. I don't need to go to the store. Right. I've got a Switch. I download games on the Switch. I want to buy it. Boom, it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. So but the stock had run up, like it had gone from like $5-6, and in the last few days had run up aggressive, like $360, I think is where it peaked out. And so there's this narrative in the media, kind of in the way that the story is being told, is that what's happening is there's some weirdos that live in their mom's basement that all got together on Reddit, and they have manipulated the market, and it's so incredibly wrong. Like this, the way they're telling it, or the way I'm hearing the story told a lot is just not accurate, and it's a quickly evolving story as well. So basically, what happened is there's a subreddit communities on Reddit are known as subreddits, and there is one called Wall Street Bets. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, it's not a place to go if you're dainty and if you're easily offended. This is how they describe themselves. It's as if 4chan found a Bloomberg terminal.
Oh God.
So so that's and there's a lot, and I get why people, like, whenever they say, oh, well, that's 4chan, Reddit, like I see, like, there's a lot of bad stuff that's come out of 4chan. Like, it's defunct now, I think, but describing yourself that way is not going to be like you're not going to attract a lot of people. But frankly, I mean, I've looked through it. I've spent some time with it, and it's not nearly as ugly as a lot of the other places are. I don't participate in it. They use some words I wouldn't use. For example, they refer to themselves and they oftentimes refer to what it is they do within the terms of autism. Is, and I think that's part of that is just because of there's a stereotype of around Reddit that there are a lot of people who are, that are on that spectrum that are attracted to Reddit as a community, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Necessarily, but anyway, so it's not necessarily the nicest place, but it's not. It's not criminal. It's not the dark web. They're not trading, stolen credit cards or anything there.
It's not Parler. They're not planning an
insurrection or anything.
US government, right?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, they're planning insurrection against the financial system, but legally. And I think we'll talk about that. So what happened was there's a prominent member of this subreddit who goes by the Reddit handle, Deep Fucking Value. I only say that because that's the word. That's his his handle, his username on Reddit. And so I'll refer to him, here in the future as DFV. Okay. So DF and V has been publicly posting about his position and really positive outlook on GameStop since September of 2019. He's literally been posting these things that's showing his brokerage account, just that piece to show how much he's lost or made on it. And it's always like hashtag YOLO. So it's essentially what the guy's saying is, hey, I'm buying GameStop in 2019 because I think it's undervalued, and everybody else thinks it's crappy right now, and it's going to go under, it's probably going to file bankruptcy and all that stuff. Like, that's what people are thinking. And so I'm going to take a flyer on it. I feel like that's what it was. Like, he likes the stock, it is, or she could be a woman, I don't know. This person likes the stock, is being contrarian, and is making that pick and is sharing it on the board. And so this was back in September of 2019.
Hey, can I pause really quick?
Yeah,
one thing?
Please.
Because I'm gonna tie this to marketing really quick, right?
Yeah.
Because right now already, I was thinking about this right as you got started, right? Where so much of what we do in marketing, sales, communication is all about framing the problem.
Sure.
And if you frame the problem in a way that's advantageous for, one of the things that we do as salespeople is we try to be fair, we try not to be dishonest, but we try to frame things in such a way that we can be the people who come in and help and provide a solution and all the rest of that, right? And so if the problem is framed as some kids in their mom's basement are manipulating the markets, that's a whole lot different than, this guy of a Reddit community has taken a position that's been a consistent position for 18 months in a company that he cares about very deeply. And a lot of people tried to F with that.
Yeah.
Right? That's a different framing, right?
Right. It is different perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Framing.
No. Yeah. And he really did. I mean, he clearly was liking the stock. Like this is not just all these guys pick some stock at random to try to run it up and then sell. It's not that. They liked it, and they've got specific reasons. They've listed in the like on the subreddit, they've talked about, like, well before all this happened, why they like this stock. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they brought into their board a guy named Ryan Cohen, who was the founder of Chewy.com, the online pet store.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so they're thinking, hey, future value, like we could see a big turnaround here. This is a good value at $5. So I'm buying it.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't. So what happened was somebody, there was all this conversation. This guy's talking about GameStop a lot, and other people are conversing with him. Somebody realized that there was a lot of money that was shorting that stock, essentially betting that stock is going to go down. And it was, in fact, there were more, so shorting a stock, just because I think some people might know, but very quickly, shorting a stock in simplest terms is when you borrow shares of a stock for a fixed amount of time, and then you immediately sell it at market price. And then when the stock price goes down, you buy the stock back at a lower price, you pocket the profit. If the stock goes up, you still have to buy it at a higher price, and then you eat the loss, Right. And so you're essentially betting that it's going to go down. So when there are a lot of legitimate uses for shorting a stock. It's a great hedge, which is essentially like an insurance policy against something bad happening. Something bad happens, your option goes up, or your short goes up.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is like, that's not what these hedge funds were doing that were on the other side, that had run up this, had taken all these short positions. And so if you think about, like, taking a short position is borrowing the stock, there were actually more stocks borrowed in a short position than there were actually stocks available in the company.
I saw that 140% of the company's stock was shorted. And so you got to know that not everyone is shorting the stock. Therefore, I mean, how in the world does that happen? Right? Like, okay, I have no idea.
I just think everybody piled on. Everybody said, it's just common knowledge that malls are dying and COVID, and so we're just gonna make big money when this company files bankruptcy.
But like, the only thing I can think happened there is, I have stock, you short it from me, so you borrow my stock, right? And then someone shorts it from you as well. Like, oh man, that's so messy,
Yeah. And because there's not enough actual stock out there, and that's part of what the problem was, is because there's not enough stock out there in order to actually kind of settle all of these. If you had to settle them all, it just drives the price up, and that's part of what happened. So one of the fundamental problems of the financial sector that I think maybe enlightened amateurs or somewhat educated amateurs like myself would see is that in the real world, I can't sell a product or a service that doesn't exist. Right. I can't sell something that is mythical, right? Yeah. If I sell you software development services, my software developer doesn't show up, what happens? Cancel that contract, don't pay, right? Because
there's no real service that happened. So how do you short more stock than exists? Right? Where's the limit that says stop, can't do that? You've reached the limit, right? Is that a limit? I don't know. But anyways.
Well, it should be. I mean, there should. I'm not smart enough to know like what the regulation should be, but it does seem kind of extreme. And so
here's one of the problems. And we both said it, and then I realized as you were saying it that I was like, wait a second, you're smart. I'm decently smart, right? If we two smart people, like sometimes you see things at face value and you realize that they don't make sense, and then people try to say, well, you just don't understand how it works. Well, I understand how basic math works, and right now what you're telling me doesn't meet basic math. Therefore, you may have a problem, not me.
Right. No,
I've been gaslit enough times that, sometimes I fight back a little bit more now on this narrative that I tell myself and other people, well, you just don't understand. This is more complicated. Is it? Or are you just making shit up?
Yeah. Well, and you can actually, even though, I mean, you can, in theory, like if you had 146% of the total, if you had borrowed 146% of the total, or this is not the right way, but if in the case of 146% of stock being short sold, like 146% of the shares, over time that actually can all be settled because a share can get sold multiple times, but every time it gets sold, if market dynamics hold true, it's going to go up and up and up. So the person that's selling it, they're buying it the third time, in order to cover their position, is buying it for a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, so what happened was somebody on Wall Street Bet subreddit noticed this unusual situation about this company being so incredibly short sold. And that's really when things went crazy, because with so much money betting on GameStop's price going down by all these big industrial, kind of these big hedge funds, there was a huge opportunity for those investors, all of those smaller investors that were kind of all communicating on the subreddit. And so they started buying, and that pushed the stock up a little bit. And so just buying just those guys buying didn't drive the stock up enough that it would actually be in the news. So what happened was, they started buying, it drove the price up. And as the price went up, all of those hedge funds and those big investors that had short positions, holding those short positions became more expensive. Yeah. So the thing about short selling is that in theory, there's no cap to how much you can lose. It's not like buying a stock. When we buy a stock, you buy your stock, and if the stock price goes down, or even if the company goes out of business, goes into bankruptcy, and you lose all your money, the most you're going to lose is how much you paid for the stock. It doesn't work that way with a short. With a short, you, in theory, have got infinite risk. Now, practically, you don't have infinite risk, but theoretically, yes. So what happened was the price was ascending and it's getting higher. Some of those short sellers were like, whoa, I'm going to buy now. I'm going to lock my losses in. Basically, if I had it at 5, I'm going to buy it at 7. I'm going to lose $2, have to pay $2 a share, but I'm getting out. Right. But that demand drove even more. And so what this cycle that happens is we're hearing it in the news. This thing that is the short squeeze that they're talking about. And so fundamentally what happened is a bunch of little guys, kind of relatively speaking, little guys, they're oftentimes you'll see them in the news called retail investors. They're just a guy or a lady with a brokerage account. They took, it looks like, billions of dollars from the hedge funds by recognizing a massive legitimate opportunity in the market. And so, these guys, they're not used to losing big, especially to regular people. Like if you watch some of these guys on CNBC today, they're befuddled. They don't understand what happened, and it can't be fair. It's got to be wrong, and we need more regulation. Wall Street guys saying we need more regulation because the one time that a retail investor really got on the right side of a bet, and they're on the wrong side of a trade or a bet, and they're like, oh, we need regulation. So they're not used to losing that big. So the next thing that happened was the brokerage companies that a lot of these Redditors were using, these investors, these retail investors that were in this subreddit, they're kind of they're the more modern, kind of easy to trade platforms like Robinhood. Robinhood, Revolut is another one. Interactive Brokers is one. All of like those three. Earlier today or earlier on Thursday, they shut the door on their customers buying more shares of GameStop.
Because it's the buying of the shares that drove up the price.
That's
right?
correct.
Right. And really the buying of the shares was a direct result of something which happened before that, which was massive hedge funds shorting the stock, which they hoped would drive down the price so that they could sell or they could buy back their shorted shares and make their profit, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, in some ways, you can short a stock to try to drive it down to make money, or you can buy a stock to try to raise its value to make money. So in some ways, it's a yin and yang, right?
Yeah. In theory, like the buyer and a seller, like just one transaction, like we shouldn't be buying it for the purpose of trying to to run it up, or buying or shorting it for running down. Like, but that does happen when large, like, markets do move on big transactions, and a lot of times the word that we're hearing now is like market manipulation. Well, these internet people are manipulating the market. Well, no, there's just enough of them doing the same thing that they're moving the market, which is exactly what hedge funds do all the time.
Well, in part of the story, ramping up to before we get to the brokerage apps and everything shutting things down, part of the story before that as well is when GameStop was at like 200 or something. I think it was 3 something at its highest. When it was at 200 something, Elon Musk, who famously hates short sellers because the Tesla stock has been shorted significantly, right? Yeah. Over the years by many people.
And those guys have gotten killed on those trades.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he I don't know if it was on purpose or just to be funny. He just tweeted "game stonk" or something.
Yeah, yeah.
GameStop, and
that's a 4chan thing,
right? And that helped drive. Oh, that's a 4chan thing. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a 4chan thing. Yeah.
Okay, so then that helped drive it all the way further, right, to the 300s. And I think I saw a figure. I didn't double check the math, so the math could be wrong. I really should have done my homework better, but. I saw someone who said if you invested $10,000 in game stock, am I saying that right?
GameStop.
Wow, GameStop. If you invested
GameStop stock stonk.
Yeah, I know exactly. It just all of a sudden got jumbled in my head. I thought, where are my
Everybody, man.
$10,000 in April. If you had sold it when it hit that peak of 3 something, you would have made $1.2 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Or your position would be worth $1.2 million.
Yeah. But you wouldn't be able to buy. I mean, you couldn't. Well, I'm going to stop ragging on Robinhood and all them. But
you'd be able to sell your stock, right?
Yeah, you could sell it. Yeah, you can sell it. Yeah, but they don't. But here's the thing. So they don't. But the selling kind of helps the people who are on the short side of. When I've seen, like, I don't know how true this is. It's probably not, or maybe it is, that there's some common ownership between Robinhood and Melvin Capital, and which was one of the firms that really lost their, they lost a lot of money, billions of dollars on their, like they said, they lost billions of dollars. So yeah.
Now, I saw some esteemed Twitter personality, and maybe it was you, who had mentioned that there are these there's like the dates, right? There's
okay, yes.
Date you've got to buy it back by.
That's right.
And that date that you have to buy it back by, it's different for a lot of folks, but there's a lot of folks, I guess, at the end of this month who are basically going to have to pay the piper, essentially.
Right. So essentially what it is that the way that you can really make a whole lot of money, it's a higher risk, high reward way of investing, is options. And I know 8 or 10 years ago, I tried it. I did it for a while. I made a whole lot of money and then I lost a whole lot of money. It's really high risk, high reward. So with options, these contracts actually have an expiration. And so that expiration is known as the strike date.
Right.
And so it's an integral part of an options contract. So if you're really, really trying to make an aggressive move and you're wanting to either make a lot of money if it goes up or make a lot of money if it goes down, then you're going to buy or sell a certain kind of option or to enter into an option contract. Option contracts last for a finite amount of time and they have a strike date. And most so these options contracts are the way that they work is they have a strike price, a strike date. That's the price that the stock is supposed to be sold at and the date at which it's supposed to be sold. And so then a stock will have, in what's known as an option chain, will have a lot of they'll have options for January, option for February, options for March, option, April. And that's when the strike date is. And so the January strike date for GameStop option chains is tomorrow, Friday, the 29th. And so, yeah. And so there's a sense that anybody who maybe is left over. So there are a lot of investors that were on the short side that got out. They took their losses and they got out. But you got to think that there's going to be a lot of people that are still in it, that still have that short position. It was smart that they kept the short position through today because GameStop closed today at 193.60, down from 360. So it's down, down significantly.
Right. Well, and
they saved some money.
Yeah. When I looked at the 1 day, movement of the stock, it started today at 263. It peaked for a minute or something at 492.
Oh, wow.
It went up to 400, then it went
Didn't
down.
Even see that.
And then it spiked for a second, essentially for 5 minutes at 4 something, and then it dropped back down, right? So it's a crazy, crazy, wild ride.
Yeah.
So Jake, let's make it really simple for the audience. Who are the good guys and who are the bad guys?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think that I hate to say good and bad. I mean, I do have an opinion about it, but I feel like that these retail investors, these folks that are on the subreddits that are really into investing, and that they did discover a big weakness in other investors' strategies, and they exploited that weakness in what I think is most likely. I think it's an ethical thing they did. I don't think it was, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if it was legal or illegal. It doesn't seem like it was illegal. I've got a friend he's a really, really high, big time, really well known, very, very good securities lawyer. He's a lawyer that does that's what he does. And I just texted him last night and I was like, hey, what's your read on this? And first of all, did these Reddit and subreddit investors, did they do something illegal? And he seems to think, there may be an argument, but he finds it really hard that the Securities and Exchange Commission would go after retail investors on behalf of hedge funds. It's just bad PR. He didn't say that, but I'm saying that, it's bad PR. So if I were to say that, the good guys and bad guys, it's really a matter of you had some regular folks that just had a brokerage account that they're fooling around with. That's their hobby. They found an opportunity to really make a lot of money. They jumped on it. And the people that were on the other side of the bet are not used to losing like that and losing big. And who they lost to, it wasn't that they lost to their colleague down the street on Wall Street who maybe, they're like, okay, well, we lost to a really smart guy. No, who they lost to were, in their minds, a bunch of losers in their mom's basements. And so it must be some kind of fraud or manipulation. And I don't think it was. It doesn't seem like it was. The argument that I'm seeing from those guys now are, the price is so high. The reason this is manipulation, the price of this stock has gone so high that it can't be justified by the fundamentals. So this is what people are saying. It's the word they're using, fundamentals, meaning that the current financials of the company don't support that stock price. And they're right. It doesn't. However, that's not, there's a lot of trades and there's a lot of investing that goes on that's not based solely on the current financials today. It's based on, projected future performance.
Right, exactly. Well, so that's interesting. You know, one of the things that I wondered as a unanticipated consequence of all this for GameStop's benefit, right? How many people in the last 2 days have talked about GameStop that have not talked about GameStop maybe ever?
Really?
How many more eyeballs are they going to have on their website, on their store, on their products, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, things in today's world, right? Major things like this, they come and go quite a bit. This one's actually stayed around for a couple days already, right? Yeah. I don't think this one's coming and going in.
There's a lot of money involved.
Cycle, right? There's billions of dollars at stake here. I bet they're going to have some sort of positive business impact on those fundamentals. There's going to be some bump that comes of this. Just as the marketing guru, right? You know that if you've got average conversion rates on websites and things like that for online purchases, so their eyeballs just went through the roof. You know, there's going to be some. Yeah.
Well, and they had already reported that their year over year online sales had grown by more than 300%. So, like, there are some forward looking kind of, you know, ideas. There are some metrics that support the fact that the thing is worth more than $5 or $6. I mean, this is just to the point of, like, businesses oftentimes get investment value, and they get investments that set their value at a pretty high level without having a history of being profitable. Right. Uber still hasn't turned a profit.
Right.
Has a market cap of more than $95 billion, stock hit its all-time high on January 15th. Pinterest, not profitable. Hit its peak on January 22nd. Market cap is $42 billion, meaning the company's worth $42 billion. Zillow.
Wait, Pinterest is worth $42 billion?
Yes, that's the market cap.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Zillow, not profitable. Hit its peak on January 20th with a market cap or a overall, you know, company value of $31.49 billion as of like an hour ago. Like, it's
holy moly.
Well, but then all these guys are jumping up and saying, "Whoa, this is manipulation because this company's not profitable. The financials don't support this price." Yeah, I'm guessing those guys are in Pinterest and Zillow and Uber. You know,
absolutely.
So okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Oh man, I felt like we almost got to like the real soapbox. I feel like we were close.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Remember. Well, so one of the things that's like, you know, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, not the smartest market guy in the world, but one of the problems I have with how a significant portion of, people's retirement, long-term savings, everything else, it has to do with this thing called the stock market, which in so many ways is not built around the fundamental principles of running a solid business. It's not built on profit and loss. It's not built on delivering good service and value, right? Now, there is some at times, right? I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all, right? But there's public sentiment, there's reaction and overreaction to news of the day and quarterly results and everything else that says your value goes up or your value goes down. And it's just so striking to me how different it is from running a business that says, I'm going to focus on making sure that I bring in more than I spend, that I provide value to my clients, right? That is what it means to run a good business. Consistent service, customer service, all those things, a solid sales plan, marketing plan, getting your name right. That's not what the stock market is, right? And for me, it's a point of frustration that it is in many ways, it's not to be too religious, but it's this false idol, right? It's this idol that's held up as the economy, right? When it's not the economy, right? It's you providing your marketing services and growing your business, right? It's what we're doing, trying to grow our software consulting company. It's somebody down the street who's opening up a brand new taco stand that's selling new fancy tacos in a way that no one's done it before, and getting people excited and selling more tacos, right? And so that's the, you know, wider challenge that I have with the stock market being kind of this golden calf to the economy.
Yeah, if you look at jobs, which is I think is a really important economic. That's a number. That's a metric. That's a key performance indicator. You know. Yeah. Like KPI. Yeah, gotta love a KPI. Those employment numbers, like, you know, it's consistently been that small businesses who almost by definition are not publicly traded. I mean, they're almost all S corps and stuff. Like I'm guessing. I mean, that's what my business is. I'm guessing that's what yours is as well. That like the. You know, consistently, roughly, is it half to 60% of all employees work for small businesses that are never publicly traded. Right. You know, they're never, you know, and really probably never take any significant investment outside of like 5 or 6 partners, maybe. You know, they're going to be owned. They're going to be closely held, owned by a handful of people, and maybe have got some bank financing potentially or something. Yep. But there's not like, And as one of those people, you know, one of those folks, I can tell you that I do pay attention to the stock market because we've got some money in there, you know, but it's, you know, it's in index funds and things. I do not have a position in GameStop. I probably should say that. No, I don't have a position in GameStop nor GameStonk. I have neither one. Got neither one nor any of the others that they've been talking about.
GameShock. I feel like GameShock would be a good one.
That would be a good one. I like that. Anyway, so crazy times. I got fired up about that story really kind of made me mad a little bit, just because it is like a clear. So in the piece where it's the thing that really kind of is irritating is the piece where these brokerages that all these guys were using kind of said, you know, they they felt like they needed to shut down everybody's ability to buy that stock. And it's
they put their thumb. Right. They put their thumb on the market, literally, and controlled what the masses could do to favor the few.
Yeah. And if I were the company that, you know, if my company was one that was like, that worked for Robinhood, I would resign the account, you know, got to do it. Can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of consequences they face as a result of this. Like
broken trust. You know, broken trust. No.
Right,
and you got to trust your broker, like your accountant, your doctor, your lawyer, your broker. They got to be trustworthy.
Right, exactly. And what I am gonna be, quite frankly, furious if I hear about in the next couple days is if and when inevitably people have broken trust in Robinhood and they leave it, they're going to talk about cancel culture. And I know that's going to happen, right? It's like, it's not fucking cancel culture. No. Robinhood canceled features to favor themselves and their investors, their equity, or whoever it would be. They canceled, right? Yeah. People didn't cancel. They had broken trust because they didn't provide the service they said they would provide. They manipulated one particular thing. They put one person or one company, one interest above others. They broke trust. So, of course, you're not going to do business. That's not cancel culture. I think people throw that term around all the time as a way to avoid taking ownership and responsibility for the way that they've interacted with other people. That's my 2 cents.
You know, I don't know. I just think I don't know that much about cancel culture. I think I'm too old. And if people want to cancel me, they can. I don't really care. Like I'm okay with that. But I think it's consumer choice. I mean, that's the great thing about this. It's just the market at work. It's like, and I'm not getting out there. I would not stand up and say, hey, everybody that has a Robinhood account should be closing out. But I will tell you that I did close out my positions today, and I will be cashing out in a couple of days whenever my, you know, Monday or Tuesday when everything settles. I'm out. You know, I'm gone. You know, sorry. Right. But got to find somebody else that when my GameStop opportunity comes along and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to jump on that deal, that I know I'm not going to get hosed because of because it's a really influential group of parties that are on the other side of that investment.
Yep. Man, whew. That's exciting.
Yeah, good time. There's already lawsuits, by the way. There's already 2 lawsuits filed, at least, against Robinhood.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it by the guy who's something F and N or something?
No, I don't think it was. No, I don't know. I don't know. So I don't actually know who that person is.
I just would love to see like the legal docket, right?
Yeah.
Something fucking something versus Robinhood, right? It's like, oh my God. Like Robinhood, you've become King John. Like, come on.
Seriously.
You're called Robinhood. You've become King John. You're sucking your thumb and you're sitting on your pile of gold. And you're trying to keep the poor peasants from getting their pile of gold. Man, like
deep effing value.
Deep effing value.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I have an idea. Why don't we're both heated up about this one. Why don't we talk about something mystical and crazy and possibly wonderful, possibly frightening? I think that would be a fun thing to transition to.
Fire it up.
Okay, so I was sent an article in Nature magazine, Nature Research Journal. I don't know, it's an online web article is what I initially read. And here's the headline. Tiny hard drives that are alive and multiplying. And what this is an article about is how scientists have figured out how to use some sort of electrical signals or pulses or something to create an on-off effect in genomic patterns. And if you have any familiarity with software development and how computer language works, computer language all works on the idea of on-off. It's called binary.
Yeah.
And so whenever code that software developers write gets compiled, ultimately what happens is it gets compiled into ones and zeros. And so you can convert those ones and zeros into actions that the computer takes.
Yep.
Letters, numbers, everything you see with computer language, it's eventually ones and zeros. So what they've done is they created essentially a code in ones and zeros. They applied these electrical jolts to some chromosomes and stored a message inside of the chromosomes. And the message they stored was a classic coder software developer message, which is hello world. And they stored that in of a bioengineered E. coli. And what they were able to see is that I believe this message could be deciphered and then even read once this E. coli was mixed with other bacterial species, which means that it persists past, the point of, replication, duplication, whatever it might be going down the line. And so first, let me just get your basic reaction to all that.
You lost me at E. coli.
E. coli.
Yeah.
So
that sounds fascinating.
Imagine if you could basically create some sort of code, some secret code, right? Let's just imagine a bank vault that only you have access to, that only gets access when you utilize your secret code, right? And the only way to access your secret code is to utilize your genetic material to actually open it up. Not just a fingerprint, not like a scan of your eye, right? Let me prick my finger, put a tiny drop of blood on something. It recognizes the code, right? In the vault, right? I mean, all sorts of different kinds of messages or use cases would probably come out of these. I really don't think it's very practical. Like, I don't think this is something we're all going to be doing, right? But it's just so crazy what people have come up with.
Well, so it seems like what the thing that trips in my mind right now is like, is this like biological blockchain? Like, are we going to have like seriously biological blockchain? And what's going to happen? I'm telling you, what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is you're going to put the E. coli into your gut, and then it's going to be biological blockchain, and then you're going to go to the bathroom, and then you're going to have Buttcoin. It's gonna be Buttcoin. I think that's the thing. Dude, when Buttcoin comes out, I'm putting all my money in it.
I was about to have a retort about no, it's not a distributed ledger. There's not a chain, a traceability. No. There's not an economy.
I was making a poop joke.
You were just driving to the rectum, right?
To the poop joke, going right to the poop joke. You know what? I'm gonna go eat some beans, and I'm gonna start mining some Buttcoin.
Well, listen. If you have inspirations about use cases for how you would basically literally write code into genes, into your genetic material, into chromosomes, if you can figure out a way to, help sell software development services by doing that, let me know.
I will.
I'd love to figure that one out.
Yeah, I got you. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. What a world we live in, Mike.
Yeah. I think the very first merch we should ever come up with would be Buttcoin.
Oh yeah. Talky Pod merchandise. Get your Buttcoin now.
Buttcoin, right? The new currency of the new world.
That's right. You can only mine it in the bathroom.
Well, I bet you can mine in a lot of places.
Yeah, you could, but it's uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Awesome. Well, it's been a blast chatting about GameStop and short selling. We didn't even talk about really how short selling really became something that most people became familiar with because of the financial crisis.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think one of the sub-stories of the whole GameStop thing is that the guy who shorted the housing market, who saw that the housing market was way overvalued and famously shorted it,
Michael Burry. You're talking about Michael
Burry, yeah.
Yeah.
He was actually, I believe if I read this right, he was actually an investor in GameStop because he felt like it was undervalued.
Interesting.
And so I think if I read it right, he was actually seeing probably the same things that the Reddit fucker guy was seeing.
Right. Deep fucking value.
Deep fucking value, yes.
Yeah.
That guy, he and that guy saw the same thing, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, he's that, and I did my best to I wanted to, because I figured we'd have some people that were listening that wouldn't be familiar with some of these like finance concepts, and so that's kind of why I went into the explanations. And I apologize that I am not Margot Robbie in a bathtub, because that'd be better. I know.
It would certainly increase the number of views that we get.
Oh yeah, totally. We put that on the thumbnail, So, hey, speaking of, so we're talking about The Big Short, the movie, but the book. Did you read the book? Are you a fan?
I didn't read the book, but my goodness, I watched that movie. I love that movie. I love absolutely. I love how they explain things.
Yeah, the guy who wrote the book that it's based on is probably my favorite writer. He tends to write about two topics that I absolutely love, and one is sports, and the other one is finance and business.
He wrote Moneyball, right?
He did. He wrote Moneyball, which is kind of an intersection of sports and also economics, which he writes about. But his very first book, I would recommend it to anybody that is interested at all in just kind of the financial system. It's called Liar's Poker, and it is sort of it's an autobiographical. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a autobiographical story of an account of him working as a bond salesman at Solomon Brothers, and then it also talks about kind of the rise of kind of bonds as being actually kind of a fast moving and highly lucrative area of investment, which it hadn't been before. They had, and it was kind of a lot of the things that really brought us to what happened in 2008. Started there, and it was a good thing, I think, on the whole when it started, but it just was taken to such extremes with all of the crazy, synthetic, the swaps, just some crazy instruments, well beyond just like basic options that we were talking about today.
Collateralized debt obligations.
Yes.
CDOs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Last thing one of my favorite scenes, I think it's that movie where the guy builds the Jenga thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then eventually he's just like, it's all shit.
Yeah.
It's all shit. Just throw it.
Yeah, that's a great movie. So but this writer, you should check him out. Michael Lewis is his name.
Michael Lewis, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And so he's married to, it's kind of funny that this is my piece of trivia about him. I don't know if you're old enough to remember on MTV. MTV used to actually have a news operation. So like the top of every hour, Kurt Loder, remember Kurt Loder? So one of those kind of news presenters at back in the day was a woman named Tabitha Soren. And so that's who he's married to. He's married to that's why I'm like, I love Michael Lewis. Oh man, he's married to the MTV news girl. That's awesome. She's not a girl, she's a woman. I apologize. But she was a girl back then.
Back then she was.
Yeah, right. She was real young. She was, yeah. So
man,
anyway,
I'm gonna have to. I'm even more intrigued by him now than before.
Michael Lewis, man, check him out. It's really entertaining stuff.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Are we out?
I think we're about out.
Cool. This has been fun. So talkytalkypod.com. You're listening to the Talky Talky podcast. I'm Jake Fisher. That's Mike Slack. Please hit subscribe. Come back and see us. Come back and see us again. We want your business again. Whatever. I don't even want to say. Just go to the website.
Comment at us. Tell us about everything we're doing bad. Right?
Yeah. I like the criticism.
Yeah, and then let's chat about it, right? And let's talk about it, right? Or if there's something that we're doing good, tell us that too. And we'd love to hear any comments about things that you'd find interesting for us to chat with. I talked about this story today because one of our faithful listeners sent it to me and said, "We'd love to hear you guys chat about this." So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Was that your mom?
It wasn't my mom.
Okay, just checking. It wasn't my mom either. So.
It wasn't your mom?
No. Mike, it was fun, buddy.
So fun, man.
See ya.
See you, bud.